She also knew how to stand up for herself, breaking into the country music business in the 60s, then singing her way to the top and staying there with a remarkable string of #1 hits that included I Don't Want to Play House, Take Me to Your World, DIVORCE, and of course, Stand By Your Man. When Tammy Wynette died on April 6th, the music world lost a legend, and several generations of country performers lost a trailblazing role model, a woman who had made it to the top in a business dominated by men. She was born Virginia Wynette Pugh in 1942 in Itawamba County, Mississippi. 50 years later, her signature song even became a presidential campaign issue when Hillary Clinton, defending her husband, declared she was not some little woman standing by her man like Tammy Wynette. The singer demanded and got an apology. Tammy Wynette earned the respect of a lot of people over the years. On this episode of Time and Again, we remember Wynette and hear from some of her fellow country music legends, Loretta Lynn, Reba McEntire, and the Judds, among others. Let's begin with Tammy herself, profiled in 1992 by NBC's John Tesh.
Tammy Wynette is known as the First Lady of country music, and the story of her life rivals any of the lyrics of the songs she sings. She was born in 1942 on a farm in Mississippi. A teenage marriage produced 3 children, and when her husband deserted her, she went to beauty school to make ends meet.
I don't want to play house. It makes my mommy cry.
In the mid-60s, Tammy gave Nashville a try. By 1967, she had her first Grammy. I Don't Want to Play House was just one of 35 hit singles. Tammy married country star George Jones in the late 60s. It was a turbulent time. When she went solo, she didn't miss a beat and emerged from Jones's shadow as a star in her own right. She wrote and performed such personal songs, she became known as the heroine of heartbreak.
They said you were a loser. Our DIVORCE becomes final today.
After 3 more failed marriages, she married George Ritchie in 1978. That same year, she was abducted at gunpoint in a Tennessee shopping center and badly beaten. In 1980, she was forced to sell her Nashville mansion because of financial problems. She bought it back 2 years later, but declared bankruptcy in 1987.
Stand by your man.
When the First Lady of Music was invited to entertain in Washington, another First Lady was not amused. Through all the hard times, Tammy has continued to write and perform songs that mirror her life. About to celebrate her 25th year in the music industry, she is preparing her 53rd album.
I want to take you back to when you were a little girl. I understand that you used to pick cotton.
Oh, I picked cotton.
How old were you?
Pulled cotton. Well, my mother had me in the field on her pick sack when I was 3 weeks old. So I started picking cotton, I guess, when I was about 3 years old with a homemade flour sack. Mama would put a strap around and hang it around my neck, and I could put cotton in that. But I worked hard as a kid.
Yeah, I would think that that would give you a lot of character, too, having a childhood like that.
It does. I'm very proud of my childhood. Not too long ago, a couple of years ago maybe, I took my girls, we were all down there, and I said to my girls, gosh, the fields were white with cotton, and I said, what I'd give if you girls could just go out there and have a pick sack on, you know, and really get into this and see what it's like. And they went, for how long? You know, my gosh, what are you trying to do that? But it doesn't take me too long. I can get to feeling, oh, I'm really it, you know. I've been very successful for all these years. And all I have to do is head back down to the old farm, because I still own it. I still own the old house that I was born in. And I get my feet right back on the ground in a hurry.
When did you first sing professionally? Do you remember the first time you were paid for performing?
Oh, yeah. It was in Atlanta, Georgia, at a place called the Playroom. And they called and offered $500 for the week. And I had my 3 kids. I thought, gosh, that's wonderful. They failed to tell me that $250 would have to go to the band to back me. That left me $250. I had to pay for a motel room, which didn't leave very much after a week. I had to pay for a babysitter for 3 kids and gasoline from Nashville to Atlanta. So by the time I got home, I had $90 left. But that $90 lasted a long time, and that was my first first paid-for engagement.
The first song you recorded, Apartment Number 9, was a hit. Was that too much too soon?
It was a very strange feeling. I didn't know how to accept that. I didn't know what a hit record was. I just knew I wanted to sing, and that was it.
You found out, though, didn't you?
I did. Oh, yes, I found out. It was just a total different world. And my grandfather that helped raise me never, ever got used to the idea that I sang. I would go home, and he would say, "Sis, do you need money?" when I'd start to leave. And I told him, I said, "No, Daddy, I don't need any money." And he said, "Well, just how do you make your money?" And I said, "Well, Daddy, I sing." "They pay you for that?" And he never could understand it. And really, I never have understood it, why they pay me to sing, but I'm thankful they do.
We'll be back with the rest of John Tesh's 1992 interview with Tammy Wynette, and hear from some other queens of country music when Time and Again continues.
It makes my mommy cry. Stand by your bed and show the world you love him.
The song was a timely one for a president seeking support from Congress through hard economic times.
You're making me nervous.
But few Democrats were in the audience to hear it. The barbecue conflicted with the Democratic National Committee fundraiser.
Tammy, it was beautiful. And thank you so very much for being with us. And you know, I'm going to get a record of that and send it up to these ladies and gentlemen on the Hill. Stand by your man. I like the whole...
One of the songs, of course, that you're most famous for is Stand By Your Man. Do you still get a great response when you sing it?
Yeah, I do. I've been so lucky on that song. I still get a good response on that song. It's been 23 years now, and it is still very good to me.
Stand By Your Man actually angered some feminists.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did.
Maybe it was a little stronger than that.
Well, you know, it came out in August. The first bra burning was in September. But they were angered at the words, "If you love him, you'll forgive him." And to me, that didn't mean anything except, oh, so you had a fight, you know, you'll get over it. I mean, that type thing. And it does not say anywhere in the song, you know, be a doormat or take any kind of abuse. But I've had to get down and explain this song line by line. Okay, this line meant this and this line meant this. I did not mean to offend anybody, but gosh, I did.
I remember a story where you sat on President Reagan's lap and sang Stand By Your Man. That caused quite a stir.
I did, and I didn't know that there was any problem. Everybody was having fun, and I didn't know that it was not proper protocol. Nobody said anything, and he certainly didn't say anything. He had all chances to say something, but didn't. It caused a stir, I guess, between Mrs. Reagan and President Reagan.
Tell me about the years when you were with George Jones.
Well, there were good years and bad years, but he did have a drinking problem, and we did have a lot of problems with that, and that is what led to our divorce. But I have been known to say that it inspired a lot of #1 records. Every time he'd get off and get drunk and wouldn't come home and stay gone for 2 or 3 weeks, I'd sit and write, and I'd write about it and pretend that it happened to somebody else, but it would actually be what he was doing that I was writing about. So it worked to my advantage.
Thank you, George.
Yes.
A grandmother 4 times. Don't look old enough to be a grandmother.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful, John. Thanks.
What happens up here when all of a sudden it's like, hi, Grandma?
Oh, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world. It doesn't bother me at all. I was so excited. I was a grandmother when I was 41 for the first time. And I was so excited. And I get more excited every time. I just wish some of the others would get busy and make me grandma again. This is ridiculous. All of a sudden it stopped. There are no more grandbabies coming along. But I'll be 50 this year. I hit 50 this year.
Does turning 50 scare you at all?
I think I'd be lying if I said it doesn't scare me a little. Just the fact that I'm 50 and I think of of people, and I say, oh, he's 68. I think, ooh, when I think of 50, 68 is real close to 50, so that part bothers me when I think of getting older.
How much longer would you like to perform?
Oh, gosh, right now I can't see wanting to stop because I'm afraid when I stop that everything else is going to stop. So I keep pushing.
Everything else?
Just life itself. I just feel like it would just shut down around me. I'm just afraid that, you know, I'd probably stay home. I wouldn't go out and do things. I wouldn't be active. I'm just afraid that would happen if I didn't stay on the road. So maybe 10 more years, very, very active, and then maybe slow down a little.
Tammy Wynette in 1992, 6 years before her death. When we come back, Reba McEntire remembers Tammy, and Wynette herself on the biggest and to some, the most controversial song of her career, Stand By Your Man.
As long as there is DIVORCE out there, people are going to want to hear somebody like Tammy Wynette sing about it.
Tammy Wynette may have sung about standing by her man, but she was no shrinking violet. It took guts, determination, and an independent spirit to rise from obscurity to stardom, as she did. And in so doing, she became an inspiration to all the women who followed in her footsteps. One of them was country star Reba McEntire.
I'll miss her tremendously. I never got to work with her on stage out on tour, but I did work with her at a lot of the award shows, special music shows that were there in Nashville. And she influenced me tremendously because even when I was a youngster, I would go to basketball camps in Oklahoma, and during the talent night, my first time to ever get to sing at a talent contest at the basketball camps, my song was my DIVORCE will be final today, and it was a Tammy Wynette song. And throughout all my career, before I got hits of my own, Tammy Wynette songs were songs that I would try to cover and do whenever I was at clubs or rodeos.
Country music, like any music, has fashions that come and go. Back in 1987, NBC's Rona Elliott asked Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris whether Tammy Wynette's style had gone out of style.
There was a survey done by, I think, the Country Music Association or some other prominent country association last year that basically said, of country music listeners, that said that the contemporary country music listener wants not to hear weepy kind of DIVORCE songs. They were looking for a different kind of more up-tempo in terms of what the subject matter is about.
Well, I don't know who they surveyed.
Like, yeah, I don't either. We still like the real thing with the song.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people, as long as there is DIVORCE out there, people are going to want to hear somebody like Tammy Wynette sing about it because she's a great singer, you know, and it touches on something that is real in people's lives. And if music, sure, we want up-tempo songs that make us feel better, but sometimes you have to cry to feel better.
Yeah.
And you have to hear people sing about those sad things in order to say, well, I'm not alone out there. This has given me something to connect with what I'm feeling. This is what I feel.
Yeah.
And so if music doesn't do that, then you might as well just put it in the elevator and keep it there, because otherwise it's not going to affect people, and it's just going to die.
Well said.
Thank you.
DIVORCE was one of a string of #1 hits by Tammy Wynette in the 60s and 70s. Her follow-up single, Stand By Your Man, which hit the country charts on October 16th, 1968, and stayed there for 21 weeks. This was 1968, mind you, also a year of riots, assassinations, campus unrest, and the beginnings of the feminist movement.
You know, I've been criticized so much for writing Stand By Your Man, and I had no idea I was writing anything that Billy and I, that people would complain about, because where I was born and raised, John, there was a man's word was God. And you know, it's still that way. And I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying it's right. I am saying that I raised 4 girls of my own and a stepdaughter, and I've always told them that they could be as good as anybody. They could do anything any man could do mentally, physically. No, we're handicapped in that area. We can't do as much. But I think me, Dolly, Loretta, and a bunch of us, I think we just had to somehow set out to prove to somebody that the girls could do something, you know. when I came to town, you didn't hear a female singer and then another female singer. You'd hear 3 or 4 male singers and 1 girl singer, then 3 or 4 more songs by a man. We weren't supposed to be able to hold our own, but I think deep down it was a thing with all of us. I know it was. We had to prove to the world, we had to prove to ourselves, I guess, that we could do anything that a man could do, and do it sometimes better. Coming from where I came from, I'd come home from school and I'd ask Mom, I'd say, can I go spend the night with Linda? Go ask your father. Go ask your daddy. Go ask your daddy. Everything was Daddy's word. And when I wrote Stand By Your Man, I wish somebody had written one, Stand By Your Woman. It's just, I thought that was a pretty love song. And the thing that they complained about was, if you love him, you'll forgive him. After all, he's just a man. Well, why couldn't you say, if you love her, she'll forgive you? After all, she's just a woman, It's just a pretty love song. I don't deliberately set out to sing to women, but I don't think I'm capable of telling how a man feels, Right. I just have to tell how I think women feel, and what happens to them happens to me, it happens to any other woman, regardless of where they are.
Stand By Your Man is a woman's song, right? Well, Tammy Wynette's least favorite version was recorded by Tina Turner, and her most favorite was a 1989 recording by none other than Lyle Lovett. NBC's Bob Costas asked him about it in 1990.
When you do your version of Stand By Your Man, who are you singing it to?
Well, to a woman. To a woman, and I just got to work with Tammy Wynette for the very first time, and I was a little nervous about it because it's such a great song, and I really didn't know what she thought of our version of it, and she was very nice, and was very nice about it. But yeah, it's to a woman, and really for the sort of flack that I got about She's No Lady. The whole idea was, if you hated She's No Lady, then you really hate this.
Now, when you're singing it to a woman, are you giving it as advice or as a plea? Are you saying, stand by your man, stand by me? Or are you more the detached observer saying, it's a good idea for you to stand by your man, whoever he may be?
No, it's a humble plea. It's, begging, whimpering, begging, stand by me. I especially love singing the line, if you love him, you'll forgive him.
Stand by your man and show the world you love him. Keep giving all the love you can. Stand by your man.
When we come back, more from Tammy Wynette. And we'll hear from some other queens of country music, Loretta Lynn and the Judds.
This is where it all began. Uncle Jimmy Thompson was a fiddle player, and he worked on WSM radio. George D. Hay was an announcer. So he said, New York has this opera, we'll have our Opry. So they started calling it the Grand Ole Opry. And of course, because you had so many singers later on the Grand Ole Opry, it started drawing the songwriters into town because they had access to the singers to get their songs recorded. And that's why Nashville has become the big recording center that it is.
Crazy for thinking that one love could hold you.
Patsy Cline took the song Crazy from one of those struggling young unknown songwriters and turned it into a classic. The songwriter was Willie Nelson. He, of course, later became more famous than Patsy Cline. But most country songwriters remain invisible. Bobby Braddock and some of the other top songwriters in Nashville at a guitar pull. That's a session where the writers get together to sing their new songs as well as their favorite old hits.
Something like our D-I-V-O-R-C becomes final today. Me and little G-E-O.
Tammy Wynette got the fame and most of the money for D-I-V-O-R-C-E. But Braddock and other writers, such as Dave Feller, who wrote this hit for John Denver, do make about 2.5 cents for every record sold featuring one of their songs. A few hits like this one, and it's a great living.
Some days a dime, some days a stone. And when I played that for Bobby Braddock, he said the only thing wrong with that is a diamond is a stone.
A clever turn of phrase, some days are diamonds, some days are stone, is one trademark of country music. Simplicity is another trait. When Hank Williams wrote Your Cheatin' Heart, it was the essence of plain talk about common problems.
In 30-something years, it's never happened. Never. That somebody just sent me a song or just brought it in off the street and it became a hit.
If a professional writer gets even 10% of his songs recorded, Killen says that's considered very successful. You can imagine the chances for an amateur. But it doesn't discourage them. They continue to come to Nashville by the thousands, turning their stories into music and putting their dreams into a song.
NBC's Boyd Mattson on the Nashville scene circa 1987, remembering Tammy Wynette when Time and Again continues. Welcome back to Time and Again as we remember the late Tammy Wynette, one of the reigning queens of country for more than 30 years. Wynette epitomized the country music myth, rising from humble rural beginnings to international stardom, fighting off a host of personal demons, and surviving a series of turbulent marriages. Throughout it all, she never lost her common touch.
Stand by your man and show the world you love him.
Her music is the soul of country. Big city or dusty Texas town, it doesn't matter. Tammy Wynette songs mirror real life. Country music stations everywhere today, DJs brought the sad news.
I'm the First Lady of Country Music, merely 55, and that is way too young.
Chuck Leary says it's easy being a Tammy fan.
She sang about what we live. She sang about having kids, getting jobs, having no job.
Do you remember her first big hit?
I Don't Want to Play House. 1967 was her first really big #1. And
today I sat alone.
Despite her success, 50 albums, 30 million records sold, 39 top 10 hits, and 3-time Country Music Female Vocalist of the Year, it was her failures, from 5 marriages to booze to pills, that Wynette sang about.
Let's call it a day today.
I lived it. It was hard, it hurt.
But the strength of her music came from the reality of her life.
I think I wrote more and I sang better when I was sad, when so many things was happening to me, because I could put down on paper what I couldn't talk about, and I could sing it and pretend it had happened to somebody else.
Wynette never forgot the cotton fields of Mississippi where she came from, her days as a hairdresser, her arrival in Nashville with nothing but a burning urge to sing.
Was there a song for you that clicked?
they all have. And we'll miss that. We'll miss that.
Wynette's music came from her heart and will always play in the hearts of those who heard it. Everywhere. Roger O'Neill, NBC News.
These days, country music is mainstream, big business. It wasn't always that way. It was considered by many for years as a poor stepchild to real popular music. Most people have gotten over that attitude for reasons that people like Tammy Wynette had known all along.
People ask me what I think country music is. I think it's a very plain, simple, down-to-earth music that anybody can understand. And we write about the things that happen to us, and we sing about the things that have happened to us. It's not, and I love a lot of rock music, but it's not just baby, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. Our music has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a story, and I like that.
But they're sometimes very tragic.
Oh, yeah, they are very tragic. But again, speaking from my viewpoint, I mean, it's just that so many times I would sit down and write things or put a certain song in my show just because I had, here I go back again, but the same old thing, I lived it. It was hard, it hurt, and I remember one day, I was in my car, I had a convertible, and I'll never forget this, and I was driving in Hendersonville, and one of my girlfriends was in the car with me, and there was a bulletin that came on the news, and it said that Tanya Tucker had tried to commit suicide, that she had sliced her wrist. And I turned it up, and I pulled off the side of the road and was listening to it, and I turned to my girlfriend, Kathy, and I said, oh, God, I'd be afraid to do that. I'd be afraid I'd live through it. And when I got home that night, I thought, but I looked at her, and she opened her mouth. I said, that's my line. I'll take that line. So when I got home that night, I wrote a song called, I can't think now of how it started. I'm afraid to leave the house. I might run into you. And if we came face to face, I don't know what I'd do. I promised me this past October, loving you for me was over, and I can't take the chance on seeing you. Because if I see you, I know that I'd live. No, if I see you, I might live through it. And you know I'd rather die than to do it. I almost did the first time, and you knew it. So if I saw you, I'm afraid I'd live through it. So I would take things like that, a certain line that I would hear, and I would write something that, again, pertained to me and something that happened to me in my life, and very, very emotional, very close to me.
Tragedy and hardship are staples of country music, as they often are for country music stars. Tammy Wynette is one example. Her fellow legend, Loretta Lynn, is another. NBC's John Tesh profiled her in 1991.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
Ted Webb died before his oldest daughter became a star. He never worked his way out of the coal dust poverty of the Kentucky hills.
Daddy always managed to get the money somewhere.
When the movie Coal Miner's Daughter came out in 1980, audiences across the country fell in love with Loretta Lynn's rags to riches story, and Sissy Spacek in the title role walked away with the Oscar for Best Actress.
You boys stop fighting and listen to me sing.
For Loretta, there have been more personal tragedies not covered in the movie. Her mother died in 1981, and her eldest son, Jack Benny, drowned in 1984. Today, at the age of 56, the world's most famous coal miner's daughter hasn't slowed down much. She's been on the road as many as 250 days out of the year and does up to 4 shows a day despite continuing health problems, including a bleeding ulcer. Her singing career started more than 30 years ago with a used $20 guitar when she started writing songs that told a woman's point of view. In 1972, she became the first woman named Country Music Association Entertainer of the Year.
Loretta Lynn!
She's never shied away from controversial subjects, and some of her songs have been banned by radio stations.
The night I let you hang my wings on your horn.
More from Loretta Lynn, the Judds, and Tammy Wynette when Time and Again continues.
I think a lot of people try to put country music down. They use the word hillbilly. Well, I'm not a hillbilly. I'm proud to be country, but I'm not hillbilly. You know, hillbilly to me means mountain people that live in the mountains and in the hills. And it's not a put down, but that's a hillbilly. I'm a country girl. I'm born and raised in Mississippi and Alabama, picked cotton all my life until I finally got away from home and started hoping that I could get a record and sing. It was a lifetime dream of mine.
Tammy Wynette in 1997. Her humble beginnings and dreams of stardom have long been a familiar theme in country music. In 1981, I spoke to another country legend, a certain coal miner's daughter from Butcher Hollow, Kentucky. Could it happen again? Is there a little girl somewhere in Butcher Hollow or another little town where that could happen to again?
I think so. There's always someone, you know, that's starting, but it's very hard, and if you want to get into the business, you know, you got to go all the way or forget it, because you just don't go halfway and make it in this business.
You made the trip, though, if I could correct my own self. You didn't have rockets attached at all. You made the trip by foot and by automobile and by bus.
These days, a young woman starting out might be more likely to have rockets, by which I mean she could be picked up by the media and made a star overnight, where you had to work and work and work.
Well, at the time I started, there wasn't that many, well, really wasn't that many country stations, you know. I played country music, and it was a little harder than it is today. And, of course, I had 4 kids. That made it harder.
That was 1981. 10 years later, Loretta Lynn sat a spell with NBC's Sandy Newton.
Little girl from Butcher Holler, did pretty well for yourself, huh?
Well, you know, when I went back up there, just the other day, I looked around and I said, it was hard for me to believe I got out of there. I'm glad I did. I'm glad my husband took me out of there.
I remember reading in a quote that you said about Coal Miner's Daughter that as graphic as the film was and as bleak as it seemed, it was even worse than that.
I won't watch the movie very much. It bothered me so bad. There's a lot of things in it that reminded me of things that went much, much deeper than anyone would know.
Of course, most people know from the movie, one of the most amazing things about your life is that you met and married your husband at 13, had a baby within a year,
and played with this baby just like a doll, you know. I would just take her clothes off, put on something else, and wash that out, and then just kept redoing this, you know. Then I had him a little boy, and I done the same thing with both of them, and then right away another one, you know, and then another one. It got to where it wasn't funny anymore.
Did you always see yourself as kind of a feisty, spunky?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. When I was a little girl, Mom would make, like on Decoration Day, they would make crepe paper flowers for the graveyard, and they'd dip them in wax, and that's the way we decorated our graveyard. Mommy made me a little crepe paper dress, and she would stand me on the Singer sewing machine, and she taught me how to sing little songs and go through the motions of all kinds of little songs. And I would sing on Friday at school, you know, with my little crepe paper dress, red crepe paper dress. I'll never forget it.
Did you have dreams then of leaving Butcher Holler and maybe becoming famous?
The biggest dream I ever dreamed was we had a toilet that sat way out behind the barn. I shouldn't tell this, but I'm going to. And, you know, the catalogs that you use in the toilet. I would go out there and I'd look in the catalogs. I'd sit there half a day and look through the catalogs where the little kids' clothes were. And I'd pick out a little dress like I was going to get for a little girl when I got married and had a little baby. I was going to get that little dress for my little girl. How could I ever have a dream any bigger than that? That's the only thing you could dream about, where I come from.
Loretta Lynn in 1991. When we come back, the triumph and heartbreak of the Judds.
I think I wrote more and I sang better when I was sad, when so many things was happening to me, because I could put down on paper what I couldn't talk about, and I could sing it and pretend it happened to somebody else. And it was a release for me. It's like giving birth.
The best of country music is like the best of blues, folk, or soul, allowing performer and listener alike to share real experience, real emotion. Audiences found that in Tammy Wynette, as they have found it in many other country performers over the years, including the Judds. Here they are with NBC's John Palmer in 1986.
Now, who's the daughter and who's the mother here?
Thanks.
Naomi, thanks.
You got a friend for life.
You guys have really had a success story. As we said a couple of years ago, you just weren't known outside of Ashland, Kentucky, and hardly even around there. A real American success story. How did it come about?
You tell me. We're still unable to comprehend it at times. It's been the most incredible 2 years of our lives. We've gone from working 9 to 5 to traveling all over the United States, sharing jazz music. It really is a Horatio Alger sort of rags to riches story. They call it the Cinderella story of the music business. It wasn't an overnight success. It's more like an over coffee break success. Really.
What do you think makes you so different? You sing about love and about love of family, but it's not cornball.
Well, we sing about, I think, Judd music represents our hearts and our lives together. Our music is something that we both identify with. It's kind of like preaching. We both believe in our music and our songs. We sing about positive things, about good girls can finish first, and we believe so strongly, and I think that's what it is. that people know about?
Country music is sort of music about real people, about you and me and everybody out there right now. And it's a mixture of hardships and hysterical, joy, too. So we try to stress the positive things in life.
That was 1986. The Judds were riding high. 5 years later, Naomi Judd's illness forced an end to the hugely successful mother and daughter team.
River of time, wash away the pain and heal my mind.
The last resort for folks with liver disease is a transplant.
But she's in chemical remission, which means...
Oh, I'm doing great.
Carry me away and heal my mind.
Naomi Judd says she wrote River of Time because she believes that music is a healer.
I'm convinced that this tour gave her that 1 hour on stage when she could forget she was sick. The fans were her medicine.
For the 112 to your right. Hey, 2 days left of the tour now. Hey, 7-air programs.
The tour bus came home for the last few days to the cities around Ashland, Kentucky, where both Judds were born. Naomi announced her illness 13 months ago. Since then, the Judds have performed more than 110 shows.
I don't know where I'm going, but I'm sure where I come from.
On the final night of this tour in Lexington, Kentucky, there were farewells from country music star Garth Brooks and from hundreds of hometown friends and family.
When the lights come on and the music starts up, it is an amazing transformation. I no longer feel the aches and pains.
Hello, family and friends and neighbors. We're home! And we have bluegrass in our veins. Everybody's got someone, the sweet somebody to love.
Winona will continue her career solo. She's recording a new album for release this spring. Naomi will continue to write songs and plans to be a spokesperson for the National Liver Foundation. It was this last night in their home state of Kentucky that meant so much to this daughter and mother.
I saw it as a rebirth. It's the ending to something that was remarkable and will never be again. But yet it's also going to launch Winona into a solo career, and I know that the Lord has other things he wants me to do.
When we stand together, it's our finest hour. We can do anything, anything. We keep believing in our
The most touching thing to me, my most enduring memory, is when they say that they feel like we're family.
Don't you think it's time?
The Judds' final concert in 1991. When we come back, a final song from Tammy Wynette.
This one's comprised mostly of duets. How did this one come about?
Well, I wanted to record with some artists that weren't country artists, that I had admired their music for so long. And Smokey Robinson, Aaron Neville, and Lyle Lovett, and
Sting, Elton John.
They were all people that my kids had introduced me to years ago. So I wanted to do it very much, and we did, and I'm so proud of it.
Anybody you wanted to hook up with that you were unable
yes,
to get
James
first?
Taylor.
Really?
Tried to get James, and we kept missing each other. But then Sting invited me to do the Rainforest thing that we did here in New York. And when I did, I got to sing a duet with him, with James Taylor. So that was okay.
Now, I understand. Now, is this true what I read, that you were somewhat nervous about recording with some of these people?
Oh, I was very nervous.
Why?
I don't know. I can only sing one way. I'm a country artist, and I just felt like maybe that wasn't where I should be, that I wouldn't be able to carry it off, okay, you know, different songs. Because we did I Second That Emotion with Smokey, and it was different for me, real different. I was nervous. I'm still nervous.
You don't think they were nervous about singing with you?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't think they would be.
What do you think for us this morning?
A new song off the album that I did with Winona Judd called I Guess It's Just a Girl Thing.
Guess you don't need me here then, yeah.
He got my number. Now, he knew I was home. He said he'd call me, so I sat by the phone. Called me crazy, but I thought it should ring. I guess it's just a girl thing. Well, I cooked him dinner, and he showed up late. He had some business that just couldn't wait. I burned the cinders, those buffalo wings. I guess it's just a girl thing. Excuse me if we expected you to say what you mean and follow it through. I don't know why love's so hard to explain to a man of the world. I guess it's just a girl thing. There was that waitress who poured our champagne. Now, he never met her. She called him by name. And I got suspicious, but she gave him a wink. I guess it's just a girl thing. He said he crawled over hot desert sand to place a single red rose in my hand. You think a man that much in love would buy me a ring? I guess it's just a girl thing. Excuse me, expected you to say what you mean, follow it through. I don't know why love's so hard to explain to a man of the world. I guess it's just a girl thing. Excuse me if we expected you to say what you meant and follow it through. I don't know why love's so hard to explain to a man of the world. I guess it's just a girl thing. A girl thing. I guess it's just a girl thing. I guess it's just a girl thing.
Tammy Wynette on today, October 25th, 1994. She was 51 then, still going strong after a lifetime of hardship and heartache. Tammy Wynette died at the relatively young age of 55, but she lived long enough to secure a lasting place in the history of country music and in the hearts of her millions of fans. That's time and again for now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Pauley, and we're history.